Vamos lá. So, Daniela, welcome. It's a pleasure to introduce you to our audience. I was just telling everybody that you're our new columnist here in Valete.
Yeah.
So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Make an introduction, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Daniela Pensek, and I have worked in politics for over about a decade now of my life here in the United States. I worked in conservative politics, and I presently just write about politics and philosophy. I work for various right-wing organizations as well, so I would say, fairly familiar with the landscape of politics in the United States.
Então, pessoal, a Daniela estava falando aqui que ela trabalhou com política por uma década, ela escreve sobre filosofia e política e ela trabalha majoritariamente aí com organizações de direita. Ela trabalhou na campanha do Donald Trump, hoje ela está trabalhando numa campanha de um outro candidato aí, né, do Partido Republicano. Enfim, vamos começar agora em relação ao assunto da live de hoje, né, que é a suspensão do X. Então, vou abrir espaço para o Beraldo aqui, começar a conversa, perguntar para a Daniela aí como que está repercutindo aí no cenário internacional.
Daniela, pleasure to be here with you. And of course, you've been following US politics for a long time. And X, the former Twitter, has been part of the politics in this recent past in the US and in the world.
Yeah.
And how do you see, before we talk about Brazil, how do you see the relevance of X in the US, a country that now, like in the middle of a presidential election between like Republicans and Democrats, we had an independent candidate, Robert Kennedy Jr., that just supported Donald Trump, the Republican candidate. How do you see the importance of X in the political context of the U.S.?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think X is relevant in almost all across the world in any role of politics, but especially, particularly in the U.S., especially in the present election season. Every election is important, of course. I think that the last couple elections are the most significant in the United States history, and X has been one of the main public platforms that people can actually express themselves. And Musk purchasing X and having it under his oversight, I think, has greatly established free speech in the United States. But what we are seeing globally and also in the United States, that they're trying to censor it still, regardless of Musk holding it, because I think that free speech, and they know free speech is so powerful, and they're trying to censor it, limit it as much as they can. But X's role in politics in the United States, regardless of what we think of it, is very significant, and it has shown to be the case for years now, especially 2016 with Trump's run onward.
Então, só para falar para vocês aí, o que a Daniela falou é que o X ele é muito relevante no mundo da política, né? Especialmente nos Estados Unidos, especialmente agora durante a eleição americana. E ela está explicando para a gente que as últimas eleições, aliás, as eleições atuais aí dos Estados Unidos são as eleições mais significativas da história do país e que o X é a principal plataforma para as pessoas interagirem sobre o assunto. Ela também fala que existe liberdade de expressão nos Estados Unidos, mas existe também um direcionamento mundial no sentido de censurar, né? Mesmo apesar do que o Musk está fazendo, outros países e dentro dos próprios Estados Unidos estão tentando aplicar censura aí, né? Esses agentes sabem que a liberdade de expressão é importante, mas querem censurar da mesma forma. E ela finaliza dizendo que o X é muito significativo para o cenário da política. Beraldão, pode tocar aí.
Daniela, what do you think that changed on X when, if we look at before Elon Musk and now that it belongs to Elon Musk, what do you think are, the impact of this new ownership on the US politics and around the world? I was asking about what changed, on your view, what changed on X, from Twitter to X, or the former ownership to the new ownership of Elon Musk?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, previous to Elon Musk, they had a lot of rules in terms of what would broke their codes of conduct on Twitter. And they used this, they said it was for public safety, but really they were just trying to limit free speech, in my opinion, because you couldn't really say anything, especially if you were part of the right-wing side of the political spectrum, right? And so when Musk had ownership of Twitter now, people of any political affiliation, it seems like, that's what it appears to be, especially of the right wing, can actually express their ideas and thoughts that otherwise wouldn't have been the case before. And so I think it's quite obvious that, with the policies that Twitter has, of course, you can't do like harassment, you can't have danger, salacious images on X like you couldn't previously. But previous to Elon Musk owning X, ultimately what has changed, I think, is that people of any political spectrum, part of any political spectrum or any ideological leaning could state their opinions where previously they couldn't have under the previous ownership of Twitter.
Pois é, o Beraldo perguntou aí o que mudou no X desde a aquisição, né, desde a compra do Elon Musk do Twitter, que transformou em X. E para Daniela, antes do Elon Musk, existiam muitas regras de códigos de conduta que eles diziam usar para a segurança das pessoas, para a segurança do usuário, mas era apenas para limitar a liberdade de expressão, especificamente a liberdade de expressão vinda da direita, né, que era muito mais mirada para esse tipo de censura do que eram pessoas de outros espectros, né? E agora, com o Musk, pessoas de todos os espectros políticos poderiam se expressar, sendo que antes elas não podiam, né? Claro que ainda não pode, ela cita que a gente ainda não pode assediar, usar imagens extremas, ameaçar, mas agora pessoas de todos os espectros políticos têm voz no X, coisa que só se deu com a aquisição do Twitter pelo Musk.
Daniela, one thing that we noticed in Brazil is that when the ownership changed and Elon Musk became the controller of Twitter, we also felt that the right-wing opinion was as important as the left-wing opinion, which what we saw, and especially on the campaign of 2022. Mm-hmm. And I personally ran for Congress in 2022, and I could see clearly how my tweets and videos, not only on Twitter, but like TikTok and other social media, how it was censored. And the worst for me was even TikTok. I had like one video that was like, it had like 20 million views. And then all my other videos after that one had like 300 views, 500 views, 1,000 views. I mean, clearly they were censoring my content. And after the election, back to 1 million views. So, it's ridiculous. So, I don't have words to express how frustrated I was with TikTok, but also Twitter, and now let's, put what we see in Brazil, that social media, a network that allows you to express your opinion, I think more than, like Instagram or other social media platforms, Twitter is for you to express yourself. If you're happy with the government, if you are unhappy with the government, whatever you think about anything, just go there and say what you think. Yeah. And now, because of the powerful people in Brazil, we're not used to being criticized, at least not publicly, and having all this negative comments on their posts, because they think they are untouchable, so they want to express their opinion, but then they get upset because people go to their posts and comment negative things, and they, at that moment, they just realize how powerful they are, and they tend to take action against those that made a bad comment, or even to the whole social media. So again, before we go specifically about what happened in Brazil, let's look at the US environment. Twitter is used the same way. I mean, people are criticizing Joe Biden, people can criticize any decision made by the Supreme Court. How do you think the powerful people in the US react when they are criticized, and where's the barrier, the wall that stop them from just using the power they have against the people that are critic to them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do in the United States. We do have the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution, which states that the government cannot make any law that abridges someone's ability to have to speak their mind or to have free speech. Right? Free speech is a major principle in the United States, in American culture, even. So we are fairly outspoken people. Also, we're known for that. But in Twitter, something like Twitter, because it is a platform built on sharing opinions specifically. It is so important to, and like you had mentioned, in election season, it's very important to utilize that to their own benefit, people's benefit. And people in control don't like that. They see that. Just recently, Elon Musk, I think, made a poll about who they would vote for, Kamala or Trump, and Trump significantly won. And it's not a poll that, it's not a serious poll, but I still think it's pretty significant considering what if you're trying to understand what the American people think. And so I think they're afraid of things like that. They're seeing evidence of what people believe in. Twitter is one of the most popular social media platforms, and they want to limit that. We do have the First Amendment, though, but we've been having articles from the New York Times and so on just in the last month saying that the Constitution's dangerous, that it's right-wing rhetoric. So they're already putting these thoughts out there to make people question, the legitimacy of the U.S. Constitution.
É interessante isso, né? Então o Beraldo começou com uma pergunta aí falando que ele se candidatou em 2022 para deputado federal, talvez vocês lembrem aí, vocês estão assistindo, né? E ele percebeu que os vídeos no TikTok dele e de outras mídias eram muito censurados, né? Que o pior era o TikTok, onde ele tinha um vídeo que tinha 20 milhões de views, e depois desse vídeo que bombou, todos os outros depois daquele tinham 300, 500 mil views, né? Claramente eles estavam censurando os conteúdos do Beraldo. E depois da eleição, passou a eleição, eles voltavam a ter 1 milhão de views. E a rede que você mais podia se expressar, portanto, era o X, né, depois da aquisição do Elon Musk, onde você podia dizer o que você pensa, independentemente do viés político. E agora, por conta dos poderosos do Brasil, que não estão acostumados a serem criticados publicamente, né, eles derrubam essas redes, no caso o STF, o Alexandre de Moraes. Nos Estados Unidos, o Twitter é usado da mesma forma, o Beraldo fala, né, para criticar o Biden, para criticar a Suprema Corte, para criticar o Trump, etc. E aí ele pergunta: como as pessoas nos Estados Unidos reagem quando são criticadas e qual é o limite que os impede de usar o poder que eles têm contra essas pessoas? A Daniela responde que eles têm a primeira emenda, que diz que o governo não pode suprimir a liberdade de expressão, né? Que é um princípio importante na cultura americana, que eles são muito conhecidos por isso. E o Twitter é uma plataforma construída para o usuário espalhar a sua opinião. Mesmo assim, pessoas com poder não gostam disso. Ela dá o exemplo que o Elon Musk fez uma enquete perguntando em quem as pessoas iriam votar, o Trump ou a Kamala, e o Trump ganhou de lavada. E ainda que isso não seja uma pesquisa séria e tal, ela diz algo importante, né? Ela revela uma verdade importante e é por isso que alguns poderosos querem limitar o Twitter. Ela lembra que eles têm a primeira emenda da liberdade de expressão, mas já existem alguns artigos pipocando aí, como no New York Times, por exemplo, dizendo que a Constituição é perigosa, que defender a liberdade de expressão seria a narrativa de extrema direita.